Welcome to ADHD-Friendly. I am Patty. I am an ADHD coach, and it's my passion to find ways to tilt the playing field so that we are thriving with ADHD. And we do that by taking what works for us, implementing it, and leaving the rest behind. And that's what I invite you to do in every episode. All right. I'm like needing to show off my my shirt here. If you are listening to this, I invite you to check out my YouTube channel, ADHD-Friendly, where you can see everything I'm going to be highlighting in this episode. So I've got a celebration related to what I'm wearing in a second. I need to tuck in my necklace. You get
love it.
Unobstructed view.
Yeah.
All right. So let's start as we always do by welcoming our new subscribers.
Ooh.
And if anybody's left, a farewell. Thank you for the amount of time that you stayed. We're at 151. Ooh. I know. And you know what the funny thing is, when I planned this episode yesterday, we were at 9:48, and I wrote it on my form as 4:98, and I didn't even notice.
Right.
Like it was just like a normal thing. And then when I went to change it today, I was like, how could we be at 9:51 when we were at 4:98? And then I was like, oh, my brain switched. I do that sometimes, but I share that to say, like, the numbers really don't mean anything to me. Like when it really comes down to it, it's really just about sharing information, and whoever it resonates with, we're happy to have you here.
Yeah,
so
we are.
Welcome. All right. Celebration. All right. This is where I am. I have a little visual. It's a quick graphic, and I don't have great handwriting, but I'm going to read it. So don't worry about it if you can't see it. Back in episode 35, this is episode 148.
Yeah.
Back in episode 35, which was back in 2022, I shared some social goals. I shared how we were coming out of the pandemic, and I've been living in the Chicago area for a few years, and I really hadn't made social connections, and I was going to have to step outside my comfort zone. I have a lot of social anxiety, and I was going to have to start putting myself out there because I work from home. My kids were, beyond the age of me needing to take them to play dates and that kind of thing where I would meet other parents. So I realized it wasn't just going to happen without structure. So I joined a book club at my local library. And that was in December of 2022.
Woo!
Coming up on almost 2 years. Crazy. I know, that's crazy. And what happened from that was I started reading more.
Yeah.
And because I started reading more, I ended up reading The Storyteller by Dave Grohl back in October 2023.
Mm-hmm.
That got me oh my gosh, he's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna listen to Foo Fighters music, see if I know any of their songs, because I did, but I didn't realize that they were sung by Foo Fighters.
Totally.
And so I was like, oh, how cool. Then I learned that he was a drummer for Nirvana. I remember I was listening on a walk, and I came home and I was like, what? What? And no, actually I read it, and I was listening to their music, and I can kind of hear the drums, and I was like, this is crazy. This is so crazy. And I just became such a fan of Foo Fighters through reading Dave Grohl's book and learning about him, that my husband got me tickets to the Foo Fighters concert this month.
Woo!
in August, and we just went. It was in Denver because he wasn't playing anywhere close by.
Yeah.
And so we went to Denver for the weekend. Got me my concert t-shirt. Look at the name of the tour. Everything or nothing at all. Come on, Dave. I don't think he has ADHD. He's not come out as identifying that I'm aware of as having ADHD, but man, if he isn't, he could be such a role model for those of us with ADHD. Living your best life, like engaging a lifestyle that works for your brain, keeping it fired up. But the name of the tour, I was like, checking another box. So great. So it was such a great time. And that's my celebration, is that because, we never know what that first step will end up giving us.
Yeah.
But I'm just so appreciative that I started the podcast. It gave me structure to talk about areas I'm struggling and to experiment and come back and share what worked and what hasn't worked. And I'm just really, really excited about the routine that I put around my social challenges. So I kind of had this goal structured around a routine with incentives to twice a month have something social that I was doing, just to get myself back out there and back into it in a way that it was still uncomfortable, but it felt doable. And I invite you to check out that episode if you want to hear more about that. But my celebration is how much it's given me to have done that. And now I saw Foo Fighters, which was just so fun. And apparently their biggest concert in the United States ever.
Amazing.
In 30 years. I know, it was such a great show. All right. And so what I purchased this week.
What did Patty purchase?
Purchased t-shirt, had to get it.
You had to.
But I had to. I'm not even a big t-shirt person.
Yeah.
I really don't wear a lot of t-shirts. but I had to, because I had to come back and celebrate. So this was really like
For the memory.
for the memory, for the to be able to share with you on the podcast.
It's a cool color.
I bought a hat for the concert.
Like a sun hat?
Yes,
Okay.
it was hideous. I'm returned, so it's in my return, will be returned. So I'm not, because I didn't use it.
We don't have to count
And it
that.
was really just too hot to shop the whole time I
Yeah.
was in Denver. It was 98, more on that than a little bit.
That's too hot.
It was just too stinking hot, but I made it through and lots of celebrations through it. So, all right, on to my tool for this week. So the topic for this week is all about ADHD-friendly routines and how we can create powerful routines to support our ADHD. And my tip is focused on two, I just took one away. Two back to school routines. So if you have kids, or if you're in school yourself, and it could even be, these are kind of transferable no matter where you are, but I'm focusing these specifically on kids. And the first is a nighttime or a bedtime routine. If you have fallen off of your schedule and the kids are staying up much later, sleeping in really late, focusing on nighttime routine first so that you are supporting them to begin transitioning. I know it's hard when it's still late outside. I remember my kids when they were little. I've always been really kind of rigid around bedtime with my kids, because they always needed more sleep than it seemed like the other kids did. They just didn't function as well. And I now understand, how much ADHD came into play around that, but they were just not fun to be around if they didn't get a lot of sleep.
Your sleep, okay.
Yep. And so I remember like closing their shades and trying to make the rooms dark when it was blazing sun outside in the summer. Yeah. And the kids, you can hear like the neighborhood kids running in the street and playing, and it's like, oh my gosh.
My mom did the same
Going to
thing
sleep.
as us. We were those kids already in bed, and we're like, "What
everybody's flying."
You're like, you go to school next week. You got to get ready.
Yeah, it's that starting to back it up. So that's where I would encourage beginning the routine. In terms of what's the goal time when they're in school? Like, what do you know they need to be in bed by, and what are they doing right now? And then just slowly backing it up so that you're getting to that goal before school starts. So you've still got a little bit of time depending on when school starts where you are. But the steps for this are: list what needs to be done before lights out. So you kind of have like we need to wash our face, brush our teeth, whatever your nighttime routine is. Get on PJs. Estimate time for each of those so you can kind of back it up and see what time do you need to start by, so you have time to read a book, all that once they're in bed. If your goal is lights out, let's see it at 8:30, and it takes about 30 minutes, and you're going to start your wind down about 8. So everybody kind of knows that's the routine. And then just give yourself time to do trial runs, because as I always say, when you have ADHD, that estimating time can be off by 2 or 3 times. So maybe you need an hour and a half to get ready for bed. But giving yourself time to try it out so you can really see, wow, we really only need 5 minutes to, brush teeth, wash our faces, and get PJs on. So we don't have to start quite so early. So we have more time to read, whatever it is. But incentivizing it for the kids is something to consider if we're asking them to give up a bit of that free time at night that they were getting used to over the summertime. So now you have your start time for your night routine. Try it out. Give yourself time before school starts so that you're setting yourself up to be able to transition to the school routine, which is such a busy time with that sleep on board, so that they're able to handle it more, and you're able to handle it more because you've had them in bed earlier too, which will support your sleep routine. The second one is morning. So I always say start with the nighttime routine, because it's going to, start with what works for you. I like to personally start with nighttime, but if you start with the morning and you're getting up at a specific time, it can make you more tired at night. So there's an argument for that too. So do what works for you. So for the morning routine, you're going to do the same. You're going to list everything that needs to happen before you need to leave the house. Estimate how much time each of those things take, and then you're identifying what time you need to get up. Again, getting up earlier before school starts is key. So that first day, they're not just, even if they're excited, they might get up right away. But the reality of the lack of sleep will hit them if they're not getting to sleep early enough and used to waking up early enough. We want to set them up for success. So build in a buffer and practice before the first day of school. So that first day of school is like, okay, it's early, but I've already been doing this for a couple of days. So I know, and you guys know more confidently that you can get what needs to get done. So you're leaving the house with what you need, calm. So you're setting them up for success. So that's it. Just, explore what routines you would need in place to kick the school year off in a way that's more ADHD friendly. All right, so now on to the power of ADHD friendly routines. Routines are essential to thriving with ADHD. I know it's a very Goldilocks thing. If we try to put too much structure in place, it can be very confining and restrictive. If we don't have any, we're kind of floating around untethered and nothing's really getting done. So notice what works for you, because creating and maintaining routines, it takes away decisions. It's just part of what you do instead of having to decide when you do it and how you do it and how long you do it. It's just already been decided and you're following what you've already put in place. So there are some challenges with ADHD that make this more difficult than for neurotypical brains. And they include that not now thinking. So it's like, right now, I can't imagine that I need to do that. It feels like it'll just happen. I've got plenty of time. I don't have to worry about it. That's a real challenge for us because we're living the now. We're not connecting to the future self, which is not now. The other is challenges with your executive function. So that ability to manage your time, to plan, to prioritize, to start tasks, to use your metacognition to see where you are and how you plan to do it, and if you need to adjust. All of those things are impacted with ADHD. Perfectionism get in the way. So if you're like trying to make the perfect routine, there's no perfect. There's what works for you and allowing yourself the gift of tweaking it as you notice what would work even better. I'm always changing up my routines over time, but usually I'm not scrapping it and starting completely from scratch unless it just never worked. I'm typically taking at least one element from it and like, okay, this part I like, but I need to change up this other piece that's just not working for me. We don't learn what works for us if we don't give ourselves a chance to experiment and try it. And the other that can get in the way is we have lots of evidence where routines haven't worked. I've worked with a lot of clients over the years that will tell me that structure is absolutely not good for them. They don't like routines. They want to have the freedom to do what they want to do, when they want to do it, how they want to do it. You can have as much freedom as will work for you, as long as you're using it in a way that does work for you. And my example here is I went to visit my sister a couple of weeks ago, and I was talking to her about this episode about routines. And I was sharing how I have this very, for a lot of people, what we consider a rigid routine in the morning, where I have to do yoga first thing. I have to I have to do them in certain orders, or I really struggle to get it done at all. I'm thinking about it all day. It's draining me all day. So I've learned through a lot of trial and error that if I don't get up and do my exercising first thing, the likelihood of me doing it later in the day is almost zero. And unless I have accountability, if somebody else is going to do something with me, that'll work. But if it's just me trying to get out there and do it on my own, it's very unlikely to happen. My sister just knows she wants to do certain things before the day is over, and she gets them done. To me, that's kind of like magic.
Yeah, like how did you do that?
I know, because I would waste so much energy looking, like always thinking, well, okay, if I do that, I still need to make sure I have time for this, or I don't want to forget that I still plan on doing this. I would be having to hold that in my working memory all day, and that's going to be draining me. Where she's just like, no, I just know I need to walk. So if I can't get it done this morning, I'll get her schedule just worked so that she could do that very flexibly. And so keep in mind what does work for you and lean into that. That's how we're going to create routines that work for us. What works for everybody else doesn't work for us. We have to do it our way. So the challenges around your brain wiring can be real. They can get in the way. I want to acknowledge that. But it is figure outable. You can solve it if you notice what you like or don't like and lean into the things that you know work for you. Oh, okay. So I call this my daily bookend. So I talked a minute ago about the morning and the evening routine in terms of back to school as the ADHD friendly tip for this episode. I call them my bookends are really what keep me on the rails, if you will, throughout the day. They're my strongest routines. My morning routine is solid. My evening routine is solid. My middle of the day, not as solid.
A little more flexible.
Some things get done, some things don't get done. I could definitely, kind of up my game in the middle, but my bookends are really, really solid. And I have to say, with my bookends solid, I'm okay with the middle being a little bit more messy.
Totally.
Where I think if I didn't have the bookends, my middle would be probably getting in my way a lot.
I was going to say, you might be a little more chaos.
Exactly. So again, we're not trying to routine every minute of your day. we're trying to create routines that serve as bookends or anchor points throughout your day so that what's most important is able to get done more consistently. Remember, with ADHD, we struggle with consistency. So anything that makes us more consistent is going to be important. All right. So I wanted to quickly just break down my morning routine. I've done this before. My morning routine takes anywhere from 2 hours to 2 hours and 20 minutes. If you told me I was going to spend 2 hours minimum on a morning routine before I really started working out the structure, I would have never started. So I'm not in any way, shape, or form telling you spend 2 hours on your morning routine. Oh my gosh, when my kids were little, like the morning routine to get them where they needed to be was at least 2 hours. I remember I used to lay in bed and I would like end up absolutely undermining myself because I would be thinking about it so much. I would drain my energy and it was so hard to get moving because I had everything I had to do in my mind and it was exhausting.
Putting all that
Where
pressure
now,
on you.
exactly, it's like the same amount of time that it's taking me, but it's completely reversed where now it's pulling me. The urgency is pulling me into it because if I don't get up in time to have the time to do these things, it just throws my whole day off. So it's, again, it's grown my own metacognition, my own awareness around what I need and how it works for me and what it gives me to do it that pulls me into it instead of me trying to push myself out of bed. It pulls me out of bed. So I get up around 5:20-ish every morning. This morning, I literally got up at like 5:35, which is super late for me. And I was like kicking myself because I knew it. I was awake.
Yeah.
I was just laying in bed, kind of doing this like, that 10-15 minutes is never worth the impact. Because then I start like, do I have time to do the full yoga routine? Do I have to modify? I waste energy making decisions. So luckily, and what happened was because I didn't have an 8 a.m. client this morning. And that's what sometimes will let me like lay a little bit longer, but oh, what a gift I give myself when I still get up at the 5:20. But anyway, it was all good. And I get up, I wash my face, I brush my teeth, I do my yoga, and then I'm doing my shower, get dressed, and then I do my dogs, I prep my coffee, tidy up the kitchen while my coffee is prepping, I go for my walk. I make my breakfast when I get back. And then when I do all of those things, I'm finished and I then have 30 minutes built in. So it's only an hour and a half of like structured working out. About an hour of that is my workout time. And then I have time just to enjoy my coffee and read. I just sit and I'm enjoying it. So as I wrote the coffee in the wrong place because like, that doesn't make sense. The coffee was made before my walk. That's not true. Sorry, guys. I just jotted it down on a piece of paper. My nighttime routine, I start about an hour and a half before I want to be in bed. My goal is usually to be in bed reading by 8:45. I know, right? Doesn't that just sound lovely?
It's amazing.
It's like my kids, like sometimes they're like, are you going to bed? I'm like, I'm going to bed, calling it a day. But I love to read in bed and I do fall asleep really quickly because I'm reading. So I typically start between 7 or 7:30. I do usually shower at night unless I do something in the morning that like if my yoga or my walking, it's hot outside or something, I'll shower off, but I wash my hair at night. I do all of my brushing, flossing, water pick. I do want to celebrate. I have been doing my 2-minute water pick since I shared that, except for travel. I don't take it with me. I don't know if it's sustainable. I don't love it. I'm not going to lie. That 2 minutes still feels really, really long to me. And I've been doing it since that episode where I shared, I didn't know the toothbrush turned off automatically. It does after 2 minutes, it shuts off. It's painfully boring. So I committed to doing it until I shared that update on this episode. I even thought about it last night and I almost didn't share it because I was like, oh, I want to talk about my celebration, but I'm like, I don't want to have to keep up that 2-minute thing. It's killing me. So I'm going to go to a minute and a half because I honestly don't think the extra 30 seconds, like I've literally brushed every tooth. Maybe there's something I'm missing. It's mind-numbingly boring. It's not sustainable. I resist it so much. And it's making my evening routine. I'm putting it off because I'm dreading it so much. I hate it. I hate it. So there's my full disclosure. I really did give it a good go. Maybe I'll build back up to the 2 minutes, but going from like 30 seconds to 2 minutes,
like this is just
it's so painful. I wish I could keep doing it until my next dentist appointment to see if there's a noticeable difference or like, hey. But honestly, I think the water pick's making a huge difference. Like just my teeth routine is taking at least 5 minutes because I floss, then I brush for the 2 minutes, then I water pick, and then I do the mouthwash. Like it's like this whole thing where I'm like,
you're like 10 minutes of teeth.
Yeah, it's a lot. But then I want 30 30 minutes to an hour to sit and relax and read before I go to bed. Like, it just depends. Maybe I'm watching a show. If it's during the week, I don't typically watch TV. I'm reading more. But something that's not stressful, then I do my 5-minute journal before I get in bed. And then I'd have like anywhere from 5 minutes to 30 minutes to read. I just fall asleep reading. So it's lovely. So again, bookending my day, those 2 routines are really solid. I just invite you to notice what routines would support you to go from where you are to a step closer to where you want to be. We're not trying to, go from here to there without acknowledging it's going to take progress and work to get there. So some other ADHD friendly routines might be in the morning. It might be just adding breakfast to your routine every day. It might be just cutting out the news or social media so that you're not getting kind of into the open, vast, bottomless pit of tech first thing in the morning.
Too much.
Maybe adding a little bit of time for exercise, a little yoga, a little meditation. Might just be setting an alarm in the morning if you're not doing that already, or just make your bed.
It really is.
I typically, it just depends. If I get out of bed and my husband's still in bed, it doesn't get made until right before I go to bed, but I will not get in my bed unless it's made. But I won't go back. I don't really care during the day because I'm not spending time in my bedroom.
Better though when it's at least like.
I want it tidy to get into.
Yeah.
Or maybe just when you're making your coffee, you just start a routine that you're going to tidy up the kitchen for 2 minutes while the coffee's burning.
Unload the dishwasher.
Refeed the, I fill the pet food bowls so they're ready to go for that night. In the evening, maybe it's setting out your clothes for the next day, or it could be just reviewing your calendar. Just a commitment to look at your calendar. It could be a routine that's a game changer. So you know what's coming up the next day. Or it could be writing in your success journal or your gratitude journal each night.
Sparkly.
Some other general routines that can really be ADHD friendly are just giving yourself some routines around spending some time outside in nature, whether it's exercising or just being around trees or anything beautiful outside in nature can really have a positive boost. It could be establishing a home to put your keys, your wallet, your purse, whatever it is, every time you come in the door so that you know where it is and you're not hunting for it. Could be starting a reading practice. Or it could be around meal planning so that you kind of have structure. I always say, like, anything that I can decide once and I don't have to repeat over and over and make decisions with every time is a game changer. I eat the same thing pretty much every morning. I don't get tired of it. It makes it easy. I don't have to think, what am I having for breakfast?
No decision fatigue there.
No, it just keeps it simple. So those are some other routine examples for you to consider. So here are some tips to create or strengthen a routine. And this is from Psych Central. These are not ADHD specific. I'm going to share a couple of tips as I go through these that bring in that ADHD friendly lens. All right. So first, create a schedule ahead of time. This is where that saying, what can happen at any time often happens at no time. So decide when. And I love the idea, especially for a new routine, of using pocket charts. So I've shared this before. So this is an example of before you leave the house, if you're trying to create a routine, it's grab your keys, grab your phone, make sure you have your lunch with you, turn off the lights. So it's literally reminding you of the things you need to do. It could be a night routine where you have it down there and you just turn them over after you finish them. So you're visually seeing that you've finished each of those steps. So I love a pocket chart, something visual that lets you see. It could be on a whiteboard, it could be on a checklist, it could be on a Post-it, it could be on your phone home screen. Take a picture of your list and it just shows up on there so you can see it.
That idea.
The next step, or the next tip from Psych Central, is break larger projects into bite-sized tasks. So I love that, because bite-sized tasks. Have you never heard that saying?
Bite-sized food. So
I think it comes from that whole "don't try to eat the elephant like in one bite you've got to." I hate that saying because so write them down. So let's say, like, my example is always like, if it's like cleaning out the garage, it's not a task that you're going to go check off. That is a project. So it might be breaking it down to collect all of the trash, make a pile for donations, or just collect the donations and take them to Goodwill. Like, write down all of the steps so you can see the progress that you're doing, and it will allow you to check it off. Because if your task is clean out the garage, that doesn't get checked off until the entire garage is finished.
Right,
that's too big of an ask for most of us. We need it broken down so we can see the progress, and we also know what's been done and what we still need to do. Number 3, keep it simple. So I call it keep it sparkly. So by that I mean finding ways to create interest so it's pulling you in, and you can even think about checking things off as sparkly, because it gives your brain that dopamine hit. It's very rewarding. So I always say, when you think about like not getting into perfectionism, not turning a small task into something that is now like unsustainable or not even able to be begun. So if you think about, if you're just going to clean out the junk drawer, let's not turn it into, no, I'm going to organize the entire kitchen and I'm going to buy new, organizing tools, and I'm going to redo the pantry and polish the floor and all. No, we're just cleaning out the junk drawer. You can do more after that, but we tend to then plan big, large, lofty goals, and it gets in the way of us starting. So keep it simple. Number 4, use timers to stay on track. So I'm going to go back to the junk drawer example. Set a 15-minute timer. Call it a tidy up. You're just going to quickly like throw away anything doesn't need, take things out that don't need to be in there, find new homes, or organize it so that there's, I have to do this every once in a while, even with the utensil drawer. Doesn't matter how many times I have dividers in there. They all make sense. I have the knives in one. I have the spatulas in one. It is right now, if you open it up, it's like,
where is everything?
Like why are there even dividers in here? There are like things laying this way and the dividers go this way. It makes no sense. But because there's some structure to it, I can tidy that up in less than 15 minutes. Actually, I can do that drawer in 5. The junk drawer is always at least 15 to 30 minutes, because even though there's dividers in my junk drawer, as I'm saying this, I'm a verbal processor. I'm like, I think I need to label the sections in there.
That's good.
Batteries, candles, like different, because because otherwise I'm not the only one that uses the junk drawer. People end up throwing things all over the place, and
you just got me now thinking about my own junk drawer.
Love a label maker. Love it. Okay. Number 5, build your routine over time. So again, we don't want to go from 0 to 60. That's not sustainable. Kind of like I probably should have just gone up 10 seconds time with my toothbrushing routine instead of from 30 to 40 seconds each time to 2 minutes, because that was like, it literally is so fatiguing and painful. So maybe that's what I'll do is I'm going to try just to get it at a minute and a half and see how that goes. But anyway, back to my list. And my example was oral hygiene. So that was my gosh, that was my example. My brain, guys, sometimes I just have to laugh. It was a really tough Wordle this morning. It hurt my head. I literally used so much brain power trying to solve that. Okay. Number 6, keep work and relaxation areas separate. So you want to be creating an area you can be productive with your work, and an area that's stress-free during your downtime. So really resist pulling your laptop and all of your work materials into bed with you. It can feel like I'm just going to cozy up and I'm going to work in here. It's really not helping you to keep the environment all blended like that. We want to have it separate so that your bed is that place that you're sleeping and your work area is the place that you're working, and allowing yourself to keep them separate. 7, make time for self-care. So I always want to share a tip, like if it's 10 minutes a day, that's more than nothing. Something is more than nothing is always my mantra. So self-care is key, but do what you can turn into a consistent routine so that it's happening and you're building up that awareness of what it gives you to do it. And that will create motivation and structure to maintain it. Number 8, plan for sleep. Yes, love that. You're more likely to fall into, this is my ADHD-friendly lens on this, you're more likely to fall into default mode decisions if you're not getting sleep. So remember that task initiation, being able to start things and managing your impulses is really impacted if we're not sleeping. So if your intention is to do something, but you're just deprived of sleep, it's going to be really hard to follow through. And you're more likely to be like, you know what? I know I said I was going to have a healthy breakfast, but I had a really difficult sleep last night. I'm going to go ahead and have the sugary cereal or the
donut.
Exactly. So it's harder to have the willpower and the energy to hold those decisions when we're not getting enough sleep. Okay. Number 9, don't get discouraged if you mess up. We will mess up. We will fall off of our routines. Plan for it. So let's get out of the all or nothing. Everything is not or nothing at all. Let's not do that. Let's acknowledge I am building this routine, but there will be a time something will get in the way. You'll get sick, you'll go on vacation, you'll have company, something will throw it off. Allow yourself to plan for that so that you're not judging it. And when it happens, just tweak, just notice, like, was this because, or was this something I need to change in the routine because it's not working for me? Not doing your routine does not mean that you can't get back to it tomorrow. Tomorrow is another day. Scarlett O'Hara. So just notice if you feel resistance and give yourself permission to change it, because that's what's going to allow it to turn into a powerful routine. And that's what we're going for here, ADHD-friendly powerful routines. All right. That's it. That's all I have on routines. This is a longer episode, Becca. Sorry.
Because we're back together.
I know. It's been a long time. We've had a lot of travel, a lot of illness, a lot of things in between. All right. The book of the week.
What do we read?
Did I tell you about this one?
No.
So it's called The Rom-Commers. It's by Catherine Center. It's a new book. I just thought it was adorable. I read it because I loved her other book.
I just love the cover.
It's a very fun cover.
Yeah.
The other one was called The Bodyguard that I read.
Yes. Okay, I still need to read that.
Loved it. So I had to get this one, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And I'm going to share my quote of the week. Oh, very quick.
Okay.
It's a rom-com.
Yeah.
It's a rom-com called The Rom-Commers. It was great. Fun. What I love about her books, I don't want to give anything away.
Yeah.
Because I hate when people give up the
no
plot and tell me what
details.
happens. But the only thing I'll tell you is what I love about the way she writes is she doesn't build in unnecessary drama.
Yes. Okay. Good.
In most rom-coms, there's some jealousy, there's
something happens.
Cheating. There's something that happens that you're like, oh my gosh, like you're almost waiting for it. And this is the second or third book of hers I read where then this one I actually took comfort knowing, oh, that's right, she doesn't go there, she doesn't do that. It's like real life regular drama, which I so appreciate. Totally. So just love her work. Okay, so the quote that I'm going to give you comes from The Rom-Commers. Again, I don't think this divulges anything.
No, you're good.
I'll let you know. I'll have Becca put up a warning when she edits this if it does. I really don't think it does. So here's the quote. This is from her dad. And her dad says, love is something you can learn. Love is something you can practice. It's something you can choose to get good at. And here's how you do it. Appreciate the person. So this comes because he was asked how to have a successful marriage.
Okay.
And so he said, choose a good, imperfect person who leaves the cap off the toothpaste and puts the toilet paper roll on upside down and loads the dishwasher like a ferret on steroids, and then appreciate the hell out of that person. Train yourself to see their best, most delightful, most charming qualities. Focus on everything you're getting right and be grateful all the time and laugh off the rest.
Aww.
And I just have to add this part because this part just so resonated with me, because I'm always thinking when people share that for relationships, I'll always think, well, that's true for this too. And that can be used here too. So he goes on and he says, and that goes for kids too, by the way, and pets and waiters and even our own selves.
Aww.
There it is. The whole trick to life is be aggressively, loudly, unapologetically grateful.
I love that.
I know, isn't that great? And so we were talking a little bit this morning.
Yeah.
I have to share. You guys know I love my husband. I talk about him all the time. And I know he doesn't listen to this podcast. He's great, but he's not going to listen to my podcast. But that's not his thing. And I don't take offense to that. But he definitely is. I'm an over the roll toilet paper.
Yes.
He under, and I'm like, that's wrong. Let's just agree. It's wrong. But again, I could choose to focus on that and every other little thing.
Yeah. Right.
And see them as negative and kind of flaws.
Yeah. Or get like mean with it.
But why? Right? Like we all have our things. None of us are perfect. We all have things that I'm very grateful that he tolerates mine, and I'm mostly happy to tolerate the things that he does that are quirky, that I'm like, why are you doing it that way? But my example, I'm going to again bring back Foo Fighters. Didn't realize until we saw them in Denver this past weekend. And I didn't realize until we were in Denver and it was 98 stinking degrees. You guys, if you listen to my podcast, know I can't take the heat. Hate the heat. And I didn't realize that we were seeing them at the Broncos stadium where the Broncos play, which is a football stadium, which does not have a dome. It was completely open.
Oh my God.
It was unbelievably sunny.
Yeah.
98 degrees. It did not matter that I think the humidity at the highest when we were there was 6%. Did not matter. It was so stinking hot. I don't deal, guys. I'm very honest about my inability. Like here, like literally, look at my weakness.
Heat.
Number one, heat. Right. So like I'm very transparent about my inability to tolerate the heat. So instead of my husband kind of getting frustrated with me when I was a little overwhelmed when I realized we're going to be outside, and I was
Where
like,
the seats were,
all right, I'll
yeah.
take Tylenol. I don't know how I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
But
Bring some water.
it was my birthday gift. So I was very appreciative. And this was like literally like the best thing in the world. He just got them for me because I've been talking about the book and then how much I was listening to the music and how until he got me tickets and planned this whole weekend trip for us, which was so unbelievably wonderful. And I love him so much for everything he does for me. But this is the kind of thing that makes him mine.
Yeah.
Is he went and he put our tickets back up for sale, and he found tickets on the other side of the stadium because we were sitting in direct sun. We were on the side of the stadium that would get the shade last. And so he went and he ended up having to spend a little bit more on the tickets. But he got me in the shade. So it was still hot as
yeah, still 90 degrees.
Oh my God. But at least I wasn't sitting in direct sun. And I took a picture once we were literally the opposite side of the stadium now. And I took a picture of where we were supposed to be sitting, and it was in full blazing, unbelievable. And I'm looking at the people sitting over there, and I was like, I don't know how you're doing it. But I would literally have never been able. I would have been physically sick. I got physically a little sick just walking to the stadium. It was so hot. So I just love him. So that I do appreciate him. So here I'm sharing with you guys how much it's a game changer when we go from focusing on the faults, if you will, like no matter what they are, we can blow them up and make them into really big, annoying things, or we can appreciate the things that they do and be grateful for them. I choose to be grateful. So that's it. All right, guys, that's it for this episode. Thank you so much. If you're still here, I know it's a long one, sorry. Thanks for hanging out with me. And as always, take what works for you, leave the rest behind. We'll see you next time. Until then, tally ho.